Hi everyone, Animal Girl here, back with another edition of Book Talk. I know it's been a while and I apologize for that. A lot of stuff has been coming up and I just haven't been being as diligent with my reading as I normally am. Unfortunately, this does happen sometimes. But while I could talk all day on why that is, this is not that kind of video. It is a review on a book, and so let's get started on that. But one thing before I jump into that, if you hear any banging in the background, it is because they're doing construction on the street next to mine. Okay, so the book I will be reviewing for this video is one I finished last night, or actually a couple of nights ago, and that book is The Land of Stories, Book 1, The Wishing Spell. When the twins' grandmother gives them a treasured fairy tale book, they have no idea they're about to enter a land beyond all imagination, the land of stories, where fairy tales are real. Okay, highlights of the book. Okay, this book was written by Chris Colfer, I believe is how you say his last name, and it is 24 chapters. And it sets up the Land of Stories series. There are actually 6 books in the series. The first one is, of course, The Wishing Spell. And then following that, in order, are The Enchantress Returns, A Grim Warning, Beyond the Kingdoms, and Author's Odyssey, I'm sorry about the typo, and Worlds Collide. Now, this book revolves around twins, Alex or Alexandria, and Connor, and their journey through the Land of Stories on a quest to find the pieces of the Wishing Spell to get them back home. And the entire series actually revolves around Alex and Connor, though each book is obviously a different adventure. Okay, things I absolutely loved about this book. First off, I really loved the plot line. Here we have 2 kids, I think 11 or 12 years old, who have been told fairy tales all their lives by their father and grandmother, and are suddenly brought into this world where the fairy tales are not only real, but the characters who have been in stories for centuries are still alive. And the book actually explains that. I don't want to get into the video because it kind of would reveal a spoiler of the book that I really don't want to do. But it's just amazing. And then they have to travel through this land collecting all the pieces of this wishing spell from the different kingdoms, because there are several different kingdoms in the story, which makes sense because there are lots of different fairy tale princes and princesses. And they have to collect them and then figure out some way to activate them to use the wishing spell to get home. And they're in a race against time because the evil queen is also looking for these pieces. And while some of them are where, 2 or more people could have the pieces, there are some where it's just one object, so it's whoever gets it first and collects all the pieces is able to activate the spell, is able to cast it. And also, the big thing is, the wishing spell can only be cast twice, and it's already been cast once. So this is really a race against time between the twins and the evil queen. Whoever can collect all the pieces first and activate the wishing spell will be able to get their greatest wish, and whoever doesn't, it's kind of stuck. Also, I love the characters. This book was filled with fairy tale and nursery rhyme characters. We had Snow White and her prince, Cinderella and her prince, Sleeping Beauty and her prince. Oddly enough, all 3 princes are actually brothers. Red Riding Hood, the Evil Queen, The Little Mermaid, although this book series actually follows more closely the actual Hans Christian Andersen version of The Little Mermaid, not the Disney version. Goldilocks, Jack and the Beanstalk. I'm trying to think of who else was iconic that popped up. Mother Goose is mentioned. The fairy godmother. Obviously, if you got Cinderella, you have to have her fairy godmother. So a lot of iconic fairy book characters or fairy tale characters are in this book, and it's just amazing. The other thing that's amazing are the kingdoms. There are 7 individual kingdoms within this land. Well, 8 if you want to count the Mermaid Kingdom. And those kingdoms are, hold up, I can see if I can remember. The Sleeping Kingdom, which is to the east, and obviously that's where Sleeping Beauty was from. It actually had an original name before, another name before she fell asleep, but they don't really reveal what it is because she was asleep for 100 years. The Northern Kingdom, which is in the north, obviously, based on the name, and that is ruled over by Snow White. The Dwarf Forest and Elven Empire, which I believe are 2 separate kingdoms, which is where the elves and the dwarves live. The Troll and Goblin Kingdom, which is ruled over jointly by the Troll and Goblin King. The Charming Kingdom, which is to the south and is ruled over by Snow White and her prince. The Corner Kingdom, which is off in the southwest corner of the land and is ruled over by Rapunzel. It's actually bordered by water, and then by the Dwarf Forest to the north and the Charming Kingdom to the east. And then right in the center, you have the Red Riding Hood Kingdom, which is ruled over by Red Riding Hood. And it's actually home to a lot of the nursery rhyme characters. There's also a fairy kingdom as well, but that's not really on the map. I think that's because they have a little map at the beginning to show you where all the kingdoms are respectively, and I think the fairy kingdom's actually part of the Dwarf Forest, if I remember the book correctly. But I did love visiting the different kingdoms and whatnot. That was really interesting and really fun, and seeing the different ways the rulers govern them. Cinderella, obviously having been a servant before she married, wants to treat all her people as equals. Sleeping Beauty is trying to bring her kingdom back from the sleeping curse, which they're still kind of suffering some side effects from. We don't spend a lot of time in the Corner Kingdom, so I can't comment much on that one. They might get into more detail on that later. And Red Riding Hood is basically, she was elected queen. She wasn't born queen. It's just because her story was so iconic with wolves, so well known out of all their stories, that they just elected her queen. And her grandmother actually really runs the kingdom. She just really doesn't have an interest in it. At least in this book. That might change in the second book. So I really loved seeing all the different kingdoms and visiting them. Lastly, I loved seeing what happens after the fairy tales. Now, all the people in this book, the main characters, the big characters, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, they all already had their stories. They're over and done with. This is what happened after Happily Ever After. Seeing them in their Happily Ever After, which is really interesting, because we don't have that in the stories. It's always, the princess married the prince, and they lived happily ever after. It's like, well, okay, well, what happened after them? I mean, did they have a prosperous rule? Did they have any kids? How many kids did they have? Do they have, all boys, all girls, a mix. It doesn't really touch on that. It kind of leaves it open ended, which is nice because then you can step in with stories like these to kind of explain what happens afterwards, and it's kind of open for interpretation, which is nice. Okay, here are the next books that are due for videos. No exact date on when they will be done, although I'm pretty sure the New Olympians will be within the next few days, hopefully, because I know I am near the end of that book. Okay, also, feel free to leave your comments and questions in the comment section. I do love to read those. Please like and share this video if you're watching it on Facebook, or like and subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. And feel free to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, and DeviantArt. I do have my name for those 4 sites right there on the screen, as well as the pictures I use for the icons. Please note, all pictures seen within this video belong to their respective artists. I own absolutely nothing. Okay, quick reminder on my comment rules. Okay, feel free to check out my other book talk videos. And my other videos. Okay, before I sign off, 2 things I'd like to touch on. First off, my movie talk videos on Van Helsing, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and Spooky Buddies, and my movie talk birthday special edition video on The Lion King are exclusively on my Facebook page as of the posting of this video. I will be doing re-uploads of these videos to YouTube. However, they will not be posted until October. This is because Van Helsing and Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters are Halloween-ish movies, while Spooky Buddies is a Halloween movie. So it only makes sense to me for the re-uploads to be done in October, which is when Halloween is. As for The Lion King, it is a birthday special edition video. So again, it really only makes sense to me to do the re-upload on my actual birthday, which happens to be in October. So please be patient. I will get those uploaded. It's just going to take a little bit of time for the reasons I stated. Until then, you can check them out on my Facebook page. Also, there will be dual postings of my TV Talk videos for Star Wars, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Dragons. All three will be posted both on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. All other TV Talk videos will be posted exclusively to my Facebook page. If you'd like to check out any of those videos or the backlogged videos of Star Wars, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Dragons, you can feel free to go to my Facebook page. I will have the link in the description section. And just to make it a little easier on you guys, here is a list of all the TV shows I've either done TV Talk videos on or am currently doing TV Talk videos on. As always, thank you for watching and have a very nice day.